This is a short video. It does have to do with another dream I had, but it's been several years ago, and it still sticks out in my mind, and I felt like maybe I could try to put some sense to what it was about. Basically, it's kind of like a dream I had after my father died. But this dream it's only about me, so it's not about anybody else. The dream begins, I'm in a crawl space under a house, and I'm basically just crawling to figure out how am I going to get out of here, because there was no real entrance, but there's no other way out. It's just sort of like you're crawling around, and everything and everywhere you look, it's sort of like it's just rocks all around you, but there's nothing above you except like a wooden floor. You feel like there is some building above me, and eventually I find an opening, and I go in to what obviously looked to be sort of like an office storage room, because it was kind of large, not really big. I'd say probably something like maybe 5 or 6 yards across, and maybe 6 or 7. I mean, I'm just estimating because I can't really remember too much. But anyway, when I got in there, there was no doors. It was just a solid square room, and you knew it was an office type building because it had sheetrock walls. It was not cinder block, and it was not wood, but it was just full of stuff everywhere. I couldn't say if it was office furniture, because it wasn't. There was really no furniture. It was sort of like reminded me of copy machines, and things were just stacked on top of them everywhere, and it was really hard to get around this place. And I felt like, boy, I don't feel as though I'm any better off in here than I was trying to crawl underneath this place to get out, but I couldn't find my way out of it. But it just, that two scenes reminded me of, you know, it's kind of like you feel like not out of body experience, but like not deja vu either, but you just kind of, it always stuck in my mind, and I've never forgotten that. And I guarantee it's been probably more than 10 years since I had that dream. And I've always felt like I wanted to share this somehow or another on a video, and I've done quite a number of videos already of sharing dreams with everybody on YouTube before this. But how can I interpret what it was that where I was? What is this place? It was not just something my mind made up, because even thinking about it now, I feel like it was a place, and it was not any kind of a subconscious projection of just some place I had been to. I've never been there to that place before. But you feel like how people who die, you hear that sort of like people are in a holding place, and you hear that a lot of times. My mother had an experience of her own where she was going to go to see an aunt that she had who was dying, and she died the morning that she was supposed to leave. And she said, I was in bed and I woke up and I saw her standing at the foot of my bed. And this is what her aunt said to her. She said, don't come, because I waited as long as I could for her son to arrive, and he apparently had. And she said, I am right now in a holding place. That's what she said to my mother in bed. And when she woke up, she told my father, she said, we're not going to the bus station because she said, I don't feel that there's any reason to. I saw her, and she said that she had already passed away. So either her son called her up and said, yes, she died this morning. But anyway, she found out that she had died, and that's what I've always felt this place was that I saw in this dream. It's an in-between heaven and earth. You know, that's how I've always interpreted this place. Because I didn't see any people in there with me. There was nobody there. But I'm not claustrophobic, but when I think about crawling under this crawl space where I was, I felt like everything was just, you know, it was just coming in at you. Like if you were claustrophobic, you would know exactly what that feels like. For some people, it's just like you just got to get out of there. And I didn't feel that way, but I just felt like this is not a good place to be right now, you know. And that's why I kept crawling and crawling, because I never could find it. You know, it's like a maze. You're going around different places and you're trying to find a place where you can get into and then finally get out. And that's what happened in my dream. I finally made myself get out of this place, but I ended up somewhere else. But it wasn't actually out of wherever I was, because I knew when I got in this room, I said, there's no way out of here except for the way that I came in. That's the only way that I could get out of there. And I think the irrelevance of what was in the room proves that it wasn't intended to be a place where you would stay very long anyway. You just felt that this is someplace, it's a familiarity of something that you probably would identify, but not so much that you were there because you had something you had to do there. It was just, it was somewhere you ended up after you got underneath that crawling that you were doing. And I don't know, maybe what I had was not a near-death experience, but maybe it was an out-of-body experience. Maybe I went someplace other than a dream, and I ended up somewhere, and my mind could only create this environment from whatever it was or wherever I ended up being. So I'm really glad I put this down on video, because I have always wanted to share what I was feeling and what I even today feel like it was. What was this place I went to? And I cannot answer it, but I can try to explain it, and hopefully this, maybe y'all might comment and say, yeah, it sounds like you might have been somewhere other than in a subconscious and dream state. It was someplace else. But I tell you, what was more scary, and it was sort of a scary experience, was the fact that when you're underneath and you're crawling, you're feeling like, I want to get out of here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to stay here. And then when I got to this upper room, you felt only some slight sense of relief, but then you still felt like, I'm not still out of wherever I'm at. I'm not able to get out of here because I'm still trapped between these two places that I'm actually in. You either can go back down and try to crawl around and hope you find your way out, but I knew in my mind, I'm not ever going to get out of this place. I'm still here. I'm still stuck wherever I am. And being in this office environment room, it was kind of like, you know, I never thought to look at the items and say, maybe this gives me a clue of where I'm at. Mainly because in the time frame it took me to think of all that, I think I pretty much woke up. But I was long enough in the dream that I could remember every little detail. And speaking of dreams, I thought of another dream that I had. I'm in kind of like a library. And I remember there were different things like at the edges of the room itself, and that you could just kind of like, you figure, well, let's look around and see what this stuff is in the room. And I went up to one particular object, and in this dream, subconsciously you're thinking, we have to be in a certain time area frame, because it felt to me like I was in the early 1970s. And the item I saw was an early form of a beta tape, a VHS tape, because when I looked at it, I said, this thing is designed for people who come to the library and they want to either borrow it and then watch it, but then you couldn't take it home because at that time there were no machines that could play anything. There were no VCRs, there were no beta machines, nothing. So the only thing you could do with this tape that the library had, and it wasn't even on a shelf, it was just sort of like in a box, and it was sitting on the edge of this wall, was you could probably put it in something if the library had it, and then you could play it, and then maybe whatever it was you were watching, you could enjoy it. But you knew, looking at it, that it had all the markings of sort of like something you would have signed out for, and then you could have taken it with you. And I'm thinking, there's nothing here, and there's nothing at home I could have played it on. But that sticks out in my mind, and I had that dream maybe 2 years ago, maybe. But places like that, you just kind of wonder, what are they? Where are you at in those dreams? Because you don't feel like they're actually, you don't feel it is a dream state. You feel like you're somewhere, you're really, really there, you know. Something that is relevant as a dream to current events relates to, I'm incarcerated at a, probably I would say it's a mental hospital, and I'm with other patients, and it's furnished because you have like furniture and sofas and tables around you. And I was basically given the job of being sort of like the disc jockey person that played music to calm people in this mental hospital. So my job was to play music, and then if I had any time off, I could actually just, you know, relax or just go around and meet up with other people in this place. And at one point I go to one section of the hospital that was definitely off limits, because the nurses were sort of like, what are you doing in this section? You're not supposed to be here. And all I can remember vaguely in this dream was that it was sort of like it was an artifact room where different things are there from different other times. Like, you're seeing futuristic stuff, you're seeing old stuff, and it's all in one place in this one room. And you cannot figure, what is it doing here of all places in a mental hospital? Why they got all this stuff here? You know, especially the fact that some of it shouldn't exist right now anyway. And what I mean by a futuristic event is that when the government starts to take control and they isolate people who don't conform and don't go with the flow of this new world order that's coming, they're going to probably put us in a place like that. And you'll be you'll either have to conform and you'll be re-educated, or basically they'll probably kill you. And this is sort of like an incarceration area where they determine whether you can be treated and released or not. And if you're not released and if you can't be treated, then basically your days are numbered, and they're going to end up just killing you off, and that's it. And that is the feeling I had of this dream the whole time, was that I'm here because I haven't conformed to what the government's saying that I have to do and how I'm supposed to live my life. And so all these other people are the same boat as me. They all are facing an uncertain future, whether they'll be dead or whether they'll be released by the government if they say, well, we feel like you've been re-educated, you've been reconditioned to accept the new world order, that sort of thing. And you know, these kinds of things make you really question, is any of it real or if it isn't?